Welcome back to our Think-In Talks. We are today here with Siegfried Mureșan, who is Vice President of the EPP Party and Vice President of the EPP Group as well, and maybe the preeminent budgetary expert of the group. So my first question is, we have a very pressing issue these days, which is defense. How can we find the additional means in the defense budget? The Martin Center proposed a 10-point plan to come to a European defense. How can we advance this?
First, we have to understand how important security is and how important it is to defend our countries properly for our day-to-day life. And two of the main priorities of the European Union right now, security defense on the one side and a strong competitive economy on the other side, they are interlinked because the private sector will only invest if it feels safe. And this is why security is so important for our day-to-day prosperity. But on the other side, we can only provide enough resources for security and defense if our economy is strong, if there are jobs, if there are enough revenues in the public budgets. So the two of them are linked. So this is why I say, irrespective of whether as a citizen you care mainly about your salary, about your income, about your pension, about the environment, about the digitization, no matter which of these topics you care about, you should care about defense as well. This is why we should make it a priority. How much we spend matters, but how we spend matters as well. In terms of how much, it is clear that there is now a readiness at the level of member states of the Union to spend more, but we also have to do more at the level of the European Union. In the European Union, we negotiate the budget every 7 years. Defense needs to become a priority for the budget of the European Union for the next 7 years, and I believe it will stay like this for the foreseeable future. We will have to do more, quicker, faster, but also for a longer period of time in the area of defense. And then member states also have to spend more at national level, and this is not a waste of money. It is for protecting people and it is for protecting our European day-to-day way of life. At European level, we are going to spend primarily in research, innovation, in supporting industrial defense, industry in the area of defense. So we're going to spend for research, innovation, industry, all linked to defense. The scope is have the most modern equipment invented here in Europe, spend once on inventing it, not 27 times in 27 different member states, research together, buy together, big quantities, small unit price, and then put it at the disposal of member states which need it. If we use the same equipment, it's also easier to cooperate. Our armed forces will cooperate easier. Their interoperability will be improved. All will become faster if we use similar types of equipment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Commission has recently shown that we can be quite innovative. The Martin Center had been asking that there should be more money for military mobility. The Commission said, look, there's still a lot of money left in the regional funds, and now the member states are entitled to use those amounts also for military mobility if they feel so. Of course, the next step, which might be that NATO is going for 3%, not 5%, but maybe 3%, that's a completely different challenge. And as you have said already, cooperating in Europe together might make things cheaper. But still, 3% would be additional means to be found. Do you think also the European Union budget could contribute this in a sizable way?
The European Union budget can contribute, but it cannot be the only source of funding. If we want to be safe in Europe, we all have to do a bit more. At national level, at the European Union level, as well. Now, with regards to you're saying before the 3%, you had an interesting point. Remind me of it.
Yes, the Commission did something very interesting. The Martin Center had asked that for military mobility there should be more money.
Yes,
and they said there's so much money left for the regional funds because of Next Generation EU. That you can use these amounts as well.
This is important. We should not play the priorities of the European Union one against each other. We as a European Union have had two traditional priorities, agriculture and cohesion. Cohesion is the fund from which we're supporting the least developed regions. These two traditional priorities have been our priorities for decades. This means they've shown their importance in time. They should continue. Cohesion has become our main investment tool. It has evolved in the past. We're now doing more digital, more green investments in the area of cohesion. What I'm saying is cohesion policy should evolve as well in the future, and it should be better linked with our new objectives. And if defense is a new objective, then, for example, infrastructure projects which have a dual use, a civilian or a military use, should be eligible, should be funded there. If we are strengthening, enlarging a road for our day-to-day life, but also for military mobility, it's good for the citizens, it's good to defend us in case of need. It should be funded also from the budget of the Union. Enlarging an airport for a dual as well, military and civilian use with EU funds should also be allowed from the budget of the Union.
Yeah, I think that's a very important message, especially also for the Baltic countries, which are connected on land only through this very small Suwalki corridor. So it's very important that in case of a Russian aggression, support can arrive there. Of course, a budget is not only expenditure, but also on the income side. And the European Parliament, especially the EPP group, especially our friend Alana Massour, who we all remember very well, has been engaging for many, many years on own resources. And I remember myself, last time we got a commitment on introducing new own resources, but as far as I have seen, it hasn't happened yet. How could we advance this agenda?
And this is a fundamental debate. How does the European Union collect the money that it needs to function? And so far, it has been primarily the member states, the governments deciding every 7 years how much, when, under which circumstances they pay to the European Union. This leads to political negotiations every 7 years, and very often they are divisive, and very often prime ministers care, each of them primarily about their country, about their member states. To do things better in a more transparent way, we as a European Parliament say the European Union should have own resources, which means own sources of revenues. This would make the budget more predictable because the revenues will be automatic. The budget will be more predictable, less political, more European, less national, less divisive. We want this because we want Europe to have own sources of revenues. But ask a Minister of Finance and he would always tell you, or a Prime Minister, I prefer to collect myself the taxes and to decide myself as a Minister, as a Prime Minister, when and how much I pay to Brussels. So there's been traditionally, for many years, different points of view. Between us as a Parliament, we say the Union should, have automatic own sources of revenues, and the governments who say, no, we decide when and how much we pay to Brussels. Now, there was an agreement last time, in the year 2020, 5 years ago, that we're going to try to bridge this gap. I believe that introducing more and smaller sources of revenues, which would shoulder the burden in a more balanced way between member states, between different categories of enterprises, sectors of the economy, is a more realistic way. I don't expect now one or two big sources of revenues in addition to what exists to necessarily being introduced and to fund the budget. I believe that, looking at the basket of own resources, which is more balanced when it comes to the burden upon member states, upon different parts of the economy, is the more realistic way. But in principle, and this is the main idea, we should agree on doing it because it makes the funding more predictable, more transparent, less political, and it's good for the citizens.
Yeah, and legally speaking, we have it since more or less the beginning, but it has been hollowed out a little bit by the value-added tax. In this context, enlargement, the EPP has always been the party of the enlargement, and now it has become even more important because we cannot leave a grey space between us and Russia, which has the ambition to become a new empire. So we have to provide these countries with an enlargement perspective. But some people are saying this is going to be very expensive. If we want to have enlargement over the next 10 years, then it has to be part in the financing of the next multi-annual financial framework, I believe.
Don't be afraid of enlargement, and don't believe that it would cost us too much. Because this is exactly what Putin would like. Putin would like us all to be afraid of how much enlargement would cost. He wants us all to believe that we will have to pay more into the budget of the European Union. He wants us to believe that we inside the current member states would receive less because all money would go to new member states and because all money would go to Ukraine. He wants to play Ukraine and the EU member states one against each other. We should not fall into this trap. People in Romania and Poland should not believe that if Ukraine joins us, they will be poorer and they will receive less. People in Germany, Sweden, Austria, Netherlands should not believe that they will have to pay more. History has shown us that whenever there was enlargement, the country that joined, but also the previous members, they have all benefited. If Ukraine joins the European Union, Poland, Romania, the Slovak Republic, frontline member states will have many opportunities for trade, for economic development, and by the way, also Hungary under the leadership of whoever would be prime minister then. The closer Ukraine is to the European Union, the better it is for us. How much enlargement would cost, how much the accession of Ukraine would cost, no one can tell us because we do not know, no one can tell us now because we do not know when Ukraine would join, what its level of development would be, and what the European rules would be then, what are our policies, how much support there is. So this is why any big figure circulated, look how much the accession of Ukraine would cost us, it just pleases Vladimir Putin because we are all afraid, hey, look, the bill would be so expensive. For the accession of each of the countries in the past, particularly larger countries like Poland, we operated with transition periods in a way in which support came in gradually to new member states and the burden was never abrupt for the European Union. What I'm trying to say is when the time is right, we will answer the questions and we will deliver an answer as we have always delivered in the past. As the Member of Parliament negotiating the next 7-year budget of the European Union, I can say that we're not going to write any figure at the beginning, but we're going to write a so-called revision clause. So if over the course of the next 7 years, Ukraine or Moldova or any country in the Western Balkans is ready to join, we will make a revision of the budget and we will make a revision of the budget and we will slowly phase in the amounts for that country, but it will not be abrupt, it will not be an immediate, initial, abrupt burden for the current 27 member states.
And also we should never forget that Ukraine also has a lot to give to us, not only highly qualified people, they're very raw material rich. They have only 0.6% of the surface of the earth, but 4.8% of the raw material. Yep. So if we want to become more independent of China, a good part of the answer is in fact with Ukraine. Yep. So a couple of months ago, there was a paper circulating from somewhere in the European Commission proposing that agricultural expenditure and maybe even regional funds, that this should be renationalized. What do you think about this?
Look, people need to know what Europe exists for, and if the European Union just becomes a bit of a cash machine where you send money to Brussels and you just receive it back without clear added value, then it doesn't make much sense. What I'm trying to say is the following. For the main policies of the Union for the future, and for the traditional policies, agriculture and cohesion, we need to keep decentralization. Someone in Brussels or even someone in a capital city doesn't know best, particularly for small projects where money is needed. Involving the local, the regional level, having it decentralized, not one size fits all. Different needs are different in different member states. Having it decentralized, involving the mayors, means that you're spending faster, means that you're spending for what the needs are on the ground. This is why we say for small projects, involvement of local regional level. For big projects, we need the European added value. We need cross-border cooperation and cross-border projects. This is one of the areas where we need to become better. Unfortunately, in the past, from the budget of the European Union and also from the post-corona so-called recovery and resilience facility, there were too small of a number of cross-border projects. We need more cross-border projects, large infrastructure projects allowing us to fulfill the potential of our economy, of our single market, improving infrastructure, as I said. The added value of the European Union needs to be clear. If you're sending money to Brussels, you should receive not only money back, but also a service, an added value, European public goods, which you wouldn't be able to deliver by yourself as a country.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Siegfried Mureșan. So this was Siegfried Mureșan, Vice President of the EPP, Vice President of the EPP Group. And see you back in our next version of Thinking Talks. Thank you.